So it's a tricky dynamic where they both want the same thing, but the gap may be how to communicate it.
This is the Convene Podcast. In this Season 7 episode, we're diving into the evolving dynamics of leadership and communication in the digital age, especially as younger professionals enter the workforce with new expectations and values. What does it really take to build trust across generations, lead with authenticity, and embrace change with confidence? Joining us today is Anushka Polius, Director of Marketing Operations at GES, who thrives at the intersection of marketing, analytics, and technology. Anushka's mission is to help close the digital divide between business operations and end users, and she brings a unique blend of creativity and analysis to the conversation. We talk about the human side of leadership, the importance of aligning purpose with career paths, and how leaders can stay grounded and effective in an era defined by constant technological and cultural transformation. We start now. You describe yourself as someone who thrives on the intersection of marketing and technology. Given your insights and experience in that space, what are the main expectations from younger employees toward their leaders in today's digital world?
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I think before we dive into, and I know in this conversation we're going to be talking about younger employees and leaders, but I think a thread we need to explore in this dialogue is not just limiting people by age or experience, but who they are, right, as humans, because it may be that leaders themselves want the same things that younger employees do, right? But when it comes to expectations and managing them, I think younger employees, younger professionals, they expect leaders to lead. And leadership fundamentally involves guidance and coaching and honesty so that we can reach a common goal. Leading has to morph based on who you're leading. So I think that may be like where there is a gap today, where leaders are trying to navigate and figure out how to meet that younger generation in a way that they expect. But it may be a situation where younger employees don't know yet like how to communicate what they need from their leadership. So it's a tricky dynamic where they both want the same thing, but the gap may be how to communicate it.
And do you have any good advice from experience?
Any good advice? I would say for me, it all starts with relationship and building trust. Because it's only in that space where you have trust that you feel that you can communicate, hey, I would actually prefer if you told me this way. Or it's only in trust that you can give constructive feedback and not feel like someone's going to take it the wrong way because you know that person is invested in your growth. So it really boils down to building trust. And how do you do that? You do that by relationship and time and having those conversations and discussions that are not just work, work centric or work involved. It's understanding what someone's going through in their life. And that can sound like a big thing, but it could be as small as, do they have a dog or a cat, and what do they do for fun after work, and you know what their goals are outside of their professional lives. And that goes both ways. The more you can build that trust, understanding, sense of belonging, then navigating those conversations around expectation become easier.
I agree 100%. And something that just came into my mind, and because we met at Convening Leaders and Brene Brown was there, and
Mhm.
she explains this building of trust. She has it in, I believe, Dare to Lead. And I probably will mess it up a little bit, but her explanation to her younger daughter when she was really young was, if you have this big jar of marbles, they would represent all these moments where you do something to build trust. And every time you do something against this that harms the relationship, you kind of take a handful of those marbles out. So that's kind of the.
Yeah, and I mean, trust is also built on you doing what you say you're going to do. So, as much as it's, there's a component of that about like relationship, it's also okay. Think of a trust fall. Can I let go and know that you're going to catch me? And that catching me might be as simple as sending an email, right? You said you were going to send an email and you said you were going to do this. Did you do it? So, do you have habits that are building your trust and social capital, or do you have habits that are eroding it?
Oh, yeah. And do you feel that there is a pressure coming from the fact that more experienced professionals are so used to hierarchy and operating in this manner, of layers, so to say, while the newer generation, and I think we both fall into that newer generation, we'd like to collaborate a bit more, to be a bit more transparent, to feel like not that necessarily we're on the same level, but at least we're on the same level as human beings. So do you believe this kind of puts pressure on this communication between more experienced professionals and younger ones?
I think before we dive into that, I would say, like, let's not underestimate the influence of company culture because it may be a situation that people prefer to collaborate but the company culture is such that, there is a clear direct line or a expectation that this level person needs to do this. But I think, fundamentally, hierarchy is about respect. So I think if we can collaborate, like why wouldn't I want collaboration? It's
Mhm.
like collaboration helps me. Like, and I think we all, we all just want our jobs to be easier, and we can make our jobs and responsibilities easier by sharing the load. I think the thing about, as I said, the thing about hierarchy is what's behind that. It's respect that while we collaborate, let's just make sure we respect each other both ways. Like we can disagree and have a disagreement and we can have like a heated discussion, but that it doesn't mean that I cross a line or, think you're unqualified or I say certain things about you. I think, like respect is what we have to learn how to navigate both ways. And just as having this conversation with you, I'm just thinking all of this dynamic is just challenging us to be more human because we're talking about things like trust and respect and honesty and it's kind of like when you're a child and you're learning kindness and how to share and that kind of thing.
And I like how you boiled it down to the human in us, because
Mm.
yes, we are professional, but at the end of the day, right?
And I think that's what we're breaking down with the quote unquote traditional work environment. And it's already started to happen. It used to be where you couldn't talk to so and so and we were limited by access or you know that kind of thing. but we've already started to break down those walls. I think, 2020 was a huge part of that because it just cracked open our humanity.
Mm.
So I think if we're in this era of human leadership, heart-centered leadership, that's the like next phase we evolve into. And hopefully that it just becomes the norm and the traditional like buttoned up, hey, here's my memo, da, 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 is,
Yeah, I do hope so, to be honest with you. Bec- It's true. We all strive for being our authentic self at work, and especially now, I think it's becoming the norm to be to have this purpose-driven work. So you choose your job that aligns with your values. Essentially, it's not just something you go there to just clock in some hours and leave. And I'm wondering if that also is becoming something that more experienced professionals may be struggling with. So how, engaging in this traditional business communication while the newer or younger employees require more engagement. They require different way of talking and being engaged. Even if you think about the channels and all the platforms that we're all on, what do you think about that?
you said a lot there. So yeah, let's dive into authenticity and purpose driven work. And what does that mean? Because you said about like clocking in and leaving. And I think we dive into like what is purpose driven work and what is work that's in alignment with our values. And let's just say there may be somebody who is in a leadership position. They have grown in their job, they're safe and secure and like the impact of the work that they do. But at this point in time, their primary purpose is to do this job and make this money to put their kids through school. So is that still not purpose driven work? You know? Because everyone has a why. Yeah, pay our bills, but there's something greater that we all aspire for. And it might be the work, or it might be like what the work allows us in, outside of our lives. And I don't think that we should say one of them is, better than the other. And I think the other thing we have to embrace is finding what purpose-driven work is for us is a process. It's a journey and it changes over time because I would even say that's something I've experienced in my career in different ways where there was stuff I was excited about and like, yeah, oh, huh. And then a few years later, I was over it. Right? So I do agree we want to move in the direction of, purpose-driven work, but I think it almost puts pressure on younger generations to find their purpose and know their purpose sometimes before they even know themselves. It's the same thing for authenticity. And I don't know if you know, but like that's a massive, like, I don't know, spirit word, buzzword, or whatever for me. I literally have authentic tattooed on my wrist because that is my number one core value. And I put it on my wrist as a reminder to never stray from being my authentic self. But that came from the process of having to be different versions of myself in different spaces early on in my career. And I just wanted to be one version of myself everywhere. So I think, though, yes, while we want to be authentic, you kind of, and maybe younger generations like have more of that like comfort with it because it is front and center. But, you know, let's say just something small, maybe something that we had to navigate would have been like, I just want to dye my hair blue, and and show up to work, but but that's not going to be professional and people won't take me seriously.
Yeah.
But now we're in this space where people are welcome, come as you are, for some of these like fashion choices, and but those things are tied, to identity. So you're seeing younger generations are like being embraced for showing up as they are, like come as you are. But I think the next layer of that, since we're evolving, is, well, then how can we be authentic in communication?
Yeah.
And you being authentic in communication doesn't necessarily mean that you will be respectful, to
Mm.
what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
That's us. And it's not to say you cannot get there, but that's a skill that you have to learn. I had a conversation with somebody and we were having an argument. And I said, how do you define effective communication? And they said, effective communication is saying what you want to say.
Mm.
And I was like, and uh-huh. And I was like, and your message is received in the way you intended. And they said, it's not my responsibility for how you take, you know? So
Interesting.
when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, this is what we're we're navigating, right? And I think the same thing applies to authenticity, where we're just saying what we want and doing what we want and being ourselves or whatever, but we're still doing this in community, and in community everything has a ripple effect. So to take it back to leadership, because I know we, kind of went a roundabout way there. I think if leaders can lead and help younger employees even think and determine what is being authentic to you? What is purpose driven work to you? What lights you up? What do you enjoy and you don't enjoy? Because that's a skill set of doing that self reflection and knowing, like, oh man, every time I do a event, I love the rush of putting it all together and just seeing the end result. And that lights me up like nothing else. I want to know that as a leader, and I want you to be able to verbalize that. And I want you to also be able to verbalize, oh my God, when I have to do these reports is so monotonous. Oh my God, I'm struggling, right? You need to know that about yourself. I need to know that about you. And then sometimes for them, to get to purpose driven or to make an impact, sometimes you have to do things that are not enjoyable. I don't know if we're glamorizing the careers and whatnot, because yeah, I might be doing purpose driven work right now. Yeah, I might be aligned and in my values, but that doesn't mean that some nights I don't have to stay up to whatever time and just trudge through it. So, and to reverse it, I think leaders need to see what they're learning from the other side, but are they still getting mentorship and are they still having relationships? Because you hear the phrase, it's lonely at the top.
Oh, yeah.
And it may not be that it has to be within your organization. Like, where are your peers? Because we can learn from everybody, and we don't have to do it alone.
Yeah. I I took so many things for myself, really, but also wanted to turn away the conversation from because we focused on the younger leaders and how to satisfy pretty much their needs. But what about when you're, like you said, when you're lonely at the top? So
Mhm.
people do get overwhelmed by all the changes that they need to navigate. Now there are 5 generations in the workforce that they need to find ways to effectively communicate with everyone, and everyone has their different preferences. So how do they keep their cool in this situation.
Doesn't that just sound exhausting?
It does. And it is. I mean, we all experience it from different
Uh,
perspectives.
yeah. How do we manage like having to communicate with the different generations?
And, keep up to date with everything that's happening without being really overwhelmed
Yeah,
by the
I would say we need to be better about like grounding ourselves and aligning ourselves with our compass because we live in a world of information overload. And I think if we don't stay centered in what we're trying to achieve, where we're trying to go, then all of that, it just swoops you up. So I would say we have to be focused on our why and what we're trying to achieve and focus on the technologies, innovations, and whatnot that directly align with that. Now, I know it's hard when you have multiple things that you're juggling because the higher up you go, the more responsibility that you have. But sometimes as leaders, we can be really bad with prioritization.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've even started training some of my employees for like ask for priority because I will send it your way. If you're feeling overwhelmed, you need to ask for priority. I can do the things, but tell me what to focus on first because I can't focus on all of it and actually get them, like knock things out and get them done. But that's what I would that's what I would say. I would say if we dial in on our North Star, so if we focus on the technology first, for instance, AI, everyone, oh my God, AI, oh my God, da, da, da. Then it becomes overwhelming because there's so much content about AI and all of the every second, every minute of every day, there's something. And oh, are you using it? Da, da, da. Pick somewhere. You just have to pick a place to go in on and start with your why. What are you trying to achieve here?
Hmm. And because you mentioned AI, now I have to ask. Because AI is truly transforming industries, not only ours, but industries
Mhm.
in other spheres. So what leadership skills do you believe will be most valuable in the next few years, I would say?
What skills?
Yeah.
I mean, like prompt engineering for sure. I think even leadership skills are going to be more important than ever. Communication skills are going to be more important than ever. You have to think of the AI thing. And again, like we are just being challenged to be more human. So, what AI is going to challenge us to do is do what it can't do extremely well. Like, what can humans do and what do humans thrive at that the AI, will not know? So, I think that's where we lean into human behavior. That's where we lean into those fuzzy things like compassion and love and forgiveness and like all of those empathy. So from the quote unquote soft skills perspective, I think this discussion is really relevant because it is about authenticity and purpose and your heart and what is driving you and why you do the work that you do. And AI can never tell you why you do the work that you do. You have to be able to, and even to use the tools, you have to be able to communicate a vision and direction to AI for you to get a quality result. So I think strategy is going to be even more important. And then you have to kind of look at it as, like AI models and stuff, they also run on predictions. And to get to predictions and stuff is easy. It's easier to get there when you put things in boxes and things have a label,
Hmm.
right?
Well said.
Right, right. But there are things that, while you can put in a box, you lose the quality of it. So this is going to sound
Yeah.
funny, but just like the color green. When I say green and you say green, and whoever's listening to this says, think of the color green. We're all thinking of different shades of the color green,
Yeah.
right? Like that's the extra like texture, the nuance that if we focus on productivity and getting things done, that's where AI helps us. But the things about like being creative and being human and adding that je ne sais quoi, right? To life,
Yeah.
and work is what we need to lean on.
So as we're wrapping up, was there anything we didn't mention we should?
Was there anything we didn't mention that we should? What you brought up here is there's a line running through it around change. And I think we just have to be more comfortable with embracing change. So back in 2022, I was going through a, rough time. And I just started repeating to myself as a mantra, the only thing that's constant is change. The only thing that's constant is change. And by doing that, I was able to start to flow with change easier instead of resisting it. And the different things we touched on here, generations experiencing change, the workplace experiencing change, technology experiencing change, that only leans into that concept more. So, how do we embrace change? How do we navigate change? I think is going to be essential both on a personal and societal level. And is the change moving in the direction of who we ultimately want to be?
That's just a great wrap of our conversation. So thank you so much for the time and sharing some of your experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Remember to subscribe to the Convene podcast on your favorite listening platform to stay updated with our latest episodes. For further industry insights from the Convene team, head over to pcma.org/convene. My name is Maggie. Stay inspired, keep inspiring, and until next time.